Evolution isn't just survival of the fittest. Sometimes it's survival of the weirdest. Today, we're going to take a look at 15 times evolution did something a bit strange. Starting with number 15, an animal that can rewind its life, the immortal jellyfish. In the waters of the Mediterranean Sea and parts of Japan, a nearly invisible creature floats beneath the surface, drifting with the tides. It's barely 4 millimeters long and it's easily overlooked under close inspection. But it's known as the immortal jellyfish, and it holds the title that no other animal on Earth can claim. It can reverse its own aging process, transforming its adult body back into its juvenile form to begin life anew. This process, known as transdifferentiation, allows it to cheat death, not metaphorically but biologically, and it's the closest thing nature has ever produced to immortality. It begins life like many others, a free-swimming larva that eventually settles and forms a polyp colony. From there, it buds off genetically identical medusae and what we think of as jellyfish, which float freely and reproduce sexually. But when faced with physical damage, starvation, or environmental stress, or even the natural aging process, the medusa can undergo a stunning transformation. It collapses into a gelatinous blob, reattaches itself to a substrate, and reverts its cells to an earlier developmental state, returning to the polyp form. This phenomenon has captivated biologists and medicinal researchers. If we can understand how the jellyfish resets its developmental pathway, it might inform future treatments for aging, cancer, and degenerative diseases. While some insects and amphibians can regenerate body parts, and some can reproduce asexually indefinitely, no other multicellular animal can return from a mature, sexually reproducing stage to its juvenile form. Its ability to achieve this feat has likely evolved as a last resort survival mechanism. In nature, where threats to survival are constant, immortality is rarely selected for. But this little guy, which leads a relatively passive life drifting in the sea, hits the rewind button, and it may provide just enough of an edge to perpetuate its lineage. Number 14. A Master of Camouflage, the leafy sea dragon. Found along the southern and western coasts of Australia, the leafy sea dragon is a close relative of the seahorse. Yet its appearance could not be more fantastical. With elaborate leaf-like appendages that sprout out from its body, the leafy sea dragon looks more like an art installation than a fish. Unlike cuttlefish or octopuses that change their color or texture to blend into their surroundings, the leafy sea dragon relies on its structural mimicry. Those fleshy projections resemble the fronds of seaweed and kelp, allowing it to drift with the ocean currents and remain visually undetected by predators. It's not just disguised in color or shape, but in the behavior too. It floats slowly, rarely swimming with any urgency, and it mimics the swaying motion of underwater plants. From a reproductive standpoint, it follows the same reversed parental roles seen in their seahorse relatives. Females deposit eggs onto a special brood patch on the underside of the male's tail, where they're fertilized and carried until they hatch. This paternal care is rare among fish, and it's made more extraordinary by the animal's fragility and specialized anatomy. But the leafy sea dragon's biology is so unique that it has no known close evolutionary analogs. Its feeding mechanism is also unusual. It lacks any teeth or a stomach, and it feeds by suction through a long straw-like snout, drawing in tiny crustaceans and plankton. This little creature illustrates how evolution, when given time and isolation, can create something that seems almost mythical. It's not just adapted to its environment, it becomes part of its environment. It thrives not by dominating its niche, but by disappearing into it. It's an evolutionary strategy that is both elegant and pretty strange. Number 13. When evolution handed pregnancy to the dads, the male seahorse. In most of the animal kingdom, the roles in reproduction follow a familiar pattern. Females carry the offspring, while males contribute genetically and then often depart the scene. But seahorses defied that expectation entirely. In these small, slow-swimming fish, it's the males who become pregnant, not metaphorically, but literally. They develop specialized organs that carry, protect, and nourish hundreds of embryos until birth. This bizarre reversal isn't just a curiosity either, it's a legitimate evolutionary strategy, and it raises fascinating questions about how natural selection could reshape even the most basic biological roles. The male seahorse has a fully developed brood pouch located on the front of his tail. During mating, the female deposits her eggs into this pouch. Once inside, the male fertilizes the eggs and carries them for a gestation period ranging from about 10 days to several weeks, depending on the species. Inside the pouch, the embryos are provided with oxygen, nutrients, controlled salinity, and immune protection, all regulated by the father's body. It is a level of maternal-like investment rarely seen in the male side of the vertebrate reproduction. Male pregnancy in seahorses also flips sexual selection on its head. In many species, males compete for females, and here females may compete for access to high-quality males, particularly those with large, healthy brood pouches. Males, being the ones investing heavily in offspring, become choosier about its mates. It's a complete inversion of the usual dynamic, and it illustrates how flexible evolutionary roles can be under different pressures. The male's role in pregnancy is more than a biological quirk. It's a demonstration that evolution doesn't care about norms. It's one of nature's most fascinating gender-bending solutions, and a reminder that when it comes to survival, biology can be incredibly flexible. Number 12. The amphibian that refused to grow up, the axolotl. The axolotl is a salamander that at first glance doesn't seem particularly threatening. It's got gills, a tail, 4 limbs, and it swims with a gentle undulation. But take a closer look, and you'll find one of evolution's most unusual gambits. The axolotl is an amphibian that never undergoes metamorphosis. Unlike frogs or other salamanders that move from water to land as they mature, axolotls remain in their juvenile, aquatic form their entire lives, a condition called neoteny. Most amphibians undergo transformation as they develop. Tadpoles become frogs, larval salamanders grow legs and lose their gills, but the axolotl retains its larval features, even while reaching full sexual maturity. It mates, lays eggs, and completes its life cycle entirely underwater, all without ever transitioning to a land-dwelling form. So why did evolution favor such a strange strategy? Well, the answer may lie in its environment. They're native to a few high-altitude lakes around Mexico City, especially Lake Xochimilco, where water conditions remain stable year-round, and predators are few. In this habitat, there's little evolutionary pressure to leave the water. In fact, staying aquatic may offer more advantages than moving to land. By never metamorphizing, they stay in a niche with less competition and fewer dangers. In terms of genetics, axolotls also have one of the largest known genomes of any animal, roughly 10 times the size of the human genome. Much of it is repetitive DNA, but some of it is thought to contribute to their unique biology, including both regeneration and developmental arrest. Unfortunately, though, axolotls are now critically endangered in the wild due to habitat destruction. But in captivity they do thrive, and their popularity as pets and lab animals has kept their lineage alive. Evolution took the blueprint of the axolotl and it hit pause permanently. The result is a species that thrives by doing something almost no other vertebrate does, refusing to grow up. It's a rare and illuminating detour in the evolutionary narrative, showing that even the most established biological sequences aren't fixed. They're just suggestions that can be ignored when the right pressures come along. Number 11. A mammal that defies classification, the platypus. When European naturalists first encountered the platypus in the late 18th century, they assumed it was a hoax. Early specimens sent back to England were believed to be stitched-together fakes, some taxidermy trick made from a duck's bill, a beaver's tail, and an otter's feet. But the platypus was no fabrication. It was, and still is, one of evolution's most bizarre real-life mashups. A mammal that lays eggs, has no nipples, hunts with electrical senses, carries venom, and glows fluorescent under ultraviolet light. The platypus is one of only 5 species of monotremes, mammals that lay eggs, all of which are found in Australia or New Guinea. Female platypuses lay leathery eggs in a burrow, incubate them by curling around them, and then feed the hatched young by sweating milk through pores in their skin. They have no teats. The milk pools in grooves on their abdomen where the young lap it up. From a sensory perspective, the platypus might be even stranger. Its duck-like bill contains electroreceptors that can detect electrical fields produced by the muscle contractions of prey. This makes the platypus one of the few mammals capable of electrolocation, allowing it to hunt for insects, worms, and crustaceans. If that weren't enough, the male platypus has a venomous spur on each hind leg. During the breeding season, males use this weapon in competition with other males. The venom isn't lethal to humans, but it causes excruciating pain and swelling that can last for weeks. And as recently as 2020, scientists have discovered yet another platypus surprise. It glows under ultraviolet light. Under UV exposure, the platypus's brown fur emits a green-blue fluorescence, while other mammals like flying squirrels and some opossums also fluoresce. It remains unclear why this happens. But as with much about the platypus, the explanation is elusive. The platypus is not just a curiosity, it's an example of how evolution doesn't always prune the weird branches from its tree. Instead, it sometimes lets them just grow wild, and in doing so gives rise to one of the most functionally unique and confounding creatures to ever swim a river. Number 10. The pistol shrimp. At just a few inches long, the pistol shrimp might seem like an unremarkable creature, until it flexes that oversized claw. With a rapid snap, this tiny shrimp fires a high-speed bubble that travels through the water faster than a bullet. When the bubble collapses, it produces a flash of light and an audible crack that can stun or kill nearby prey. This phenomenon isn't science fiction, it's a well-documented evolutionary marvel, the weaponization and use of cavitation, one of the most extreme examples of energy manipulation in the animal kingdom. Now, the claw doesn't just fire a projectile, instead it snaps shut with such force and speed that it displaces water and creates a low-pressure bubble. This bubble expands, then implodes in microseconds, generating a shock wave, and through a process known as sonoluminescence, a brief emission of light. The result is a combination of kinetic force, thermal energy, and acoustic blast, all generated by a crustacean the size of a paperclip. The claw responsible for this sonic boom is disproportionately large and asymmetrical. It contains a specialized joint and a plunger-like structure that seals into a socket, much like a piston in an engine. The speed of the snap is among the fastest recorded in the animal world, second only to the mantis shrimp's punch. Biologists have marveled at the pistol shrimp's abilities, and engineers studied cavitation erosion in ships' propellers and turbines use the shrimp snap as a model for understanding energy concentration. It's also inspired biomimetic research into underwater weapons systems, miniaturized shockwave generators, and even non-lethal crowd control technology. It's a strategy that's so extreme, so finely tuned, that it defies expectation. A tiny animal with a built-in energy cannon. It evolved not in a weapons lab, but in the shallows of tropical waters. Number 9. A lizard that drinks with its skin and looks like a walking cactus, the moolok. In the deserts of Australia roams a creature that looks like it was designed by evolution to be both terrifying and invisible, the moolok, also known as the thorny devil. It's a small, slow-moving lizard covered from head to tail in sharp, conical spikes. At first glance, it resembles a miniature dragon or a cactus come to life, but its most bizarre adaptation is hidden not in its appearance, but in the way that it drinks. The moolok can draw water through its skin, transporting it via capillary action directly to its mouth. When rain falls, or even when the lizard walks through dew-laden sand, water collects on the body and is pulled by surface tension into these grooves. The liquid then moves passively through the skin, following a network of channels that eventually lead to the corners of the mouth, allowing the animal to drink without even lowering its head. Its diet, too, is just as specialized as its skin. It feeds almost exclusively on ants, consuming thousands in a single day. It uses a sticky tongue to scoop them up as quickly as it ambles through the desert. And from an evolutionary standpoint, it's a prime example of an extreme specialization, a creature that's adapted to an incredibly narrow set of environmental conditions and mastered them completely. Despite its intimidating appearance, the moolok is harmless to humans and it plays an important role in the desert ecosystem. It's one of nature's strangest and most elegant experiments in survival, showing that even in the harshest, driest conditions on the planet, life will not only find a way, it will also find incredibly weird ways to thrive. Number 8. The barrel-eye fish. In the deep pitch black of the ocean where sunlight never penetrates, evolution has taken some bizarre turns. Few creatures exemplify this better than the barrel-eye fish, a small deep-sea fish with a feature so strange that it borders on unbelievable, a transparent, fluid-filled head that allows it to look through its own skull. Discovered in the 1930s but only observed alive in 2004, the barrel eye had long puzzled scientists. Early specimens had collapsed cranial domes due to pressure changes, leading to confusion about its anatomy. But when a submersible finally captured footage of a living specimen, the mystery cleared and yet deepened. The fish's entire forehead is a clear dome-like structure. Inside, two rotating tubular eyes peer upwards through the dome, searching for the silhouettes of prey above. Now, most fish have lateral-facing eyes, but the barrel eyes are completely internal, green barrel-shaped cylinders embedded within its transparent head casing. When it spots a target, it can rotate its eyes forward to track it and intercept it, a trait that was only confirmed after live observation. At about 15 centimeters in length, it's not particularly large, but its adaptations make it a formidable predator in a lightless world. This little guy changes our very conception of what an animal should look like. Transparent heads, rotating eyes, and passive ambush predation strategies aren't what we'd expect from vertebrates, but they're exactly what's needed when survival depends on detecting shadows in perpetual darkness. In evolutionary terms, it represents a path not taken out of necessity for speed, strength, or aggression, but for precision and patience. It is a deep-sea oddity, not because it evolved incorrectly, but because it evolved perfectly for a niche that would destroy most other species. Moving on to number 7, a flightless parrot that smells like fruit, the kakapo. In the rainforests of New Zealand lives a creature so endearingly bizarre it borders on tragic. The kakapo, also known as the night parrot or owl parrot, is a rotund, moss-green nocturnal bird with soft feathers, stubby wings, and an expression of permanent bewilderment. It's the world's only flightless parrot, the heaviest parrot, and among the longest-living birds on Earth. It also, unfortunately, seems to be one of evolution's great miscalculations, an animal perfectly adapted to a world that no longer exists. For millions of years, the kakapo evolved in isolation on New Zealand, a land with no native terrestrial predators. Without the need to fly, it gradually traded aerodynamic performance for sturdiness and quiet mobility. Those strong legs allow it to walk long distances, and it's got an excellent sense of smell, unusual among birds. In fact, the kakapo emits a sweet, fruity odor from its feathers, possibly for mate attraction. I guess in a world without mammalian predators, there was no reason to be stealthy. This evolutionary niche collapsed when humans arrived, bringing cats, rats, stoats, and dogs. The kakapo's defense mechanism, freezing in place when threatened, might have helped it avoid detection by an eagle, but it proved disastrously ineffective against scent-driven hunters. By the 1990s, the kakapo was on the brink of extinction. Only 50 individuals remained, all males, until a few overlooked females were discovered in parts of Fiordland. A frantic conservation effort then began. But survival was complicated by the kakapo's peculiar reproductive system. It's what's known as a lek breeder, meaning males gather in specific areas to perform mating calls or booms in low-frequency sounds that can travel for kilometers. They dig shallow bowls in the ground, puff up their chests, and boom nightly for weeks. Females travel to the most impressive males, mate, and then raise the chicks alone. However, this only happens during the years of heavy remove fruiting, which can be as infrequent as every 2 to 4 years. If the fruit doesn't come, kakapos simply don't breed at all. Thanks to intensive conservation efforts on predator-free islands like Codfish Island, the population has risen to over 250 individuals as of 2023. Each bird is tagged, tracked, and named, every boom is recorded, every egg is logged, and every genetic pairing is scrutinized. The kakapo is now both a symbol of quirky evolution and the poster child for extreme conservation. In the hands of determined scientists and conservationists, the kakapo may yet survive. A reminder that sometimes evolution gambles, loses, and still gets a second chance. Number 6. A living fossil, the velvet worm. Imagine a creature that hasn't changed in over 500 million years. Now imagine it hunting prey not with fangs or speed, but by shooting sticky slime from twin nozzles on its face. Now meet the velvet worm, a small, soft-bodied invertebrate that looks like a cross between a caterpillar and a millipede. Found in tropical and temperate forests of the southern hemisphere, velvet worms are rare, secretive, and astonishingly weird. Their hunting method is ancient and unmatched. When a worm detects prey, usually termites or small insects, it sneaks close using stubby hydraulic legs that move in a wave-like pattern. Then, with astonishing speed, it fires twin jets of protein-rich adhesive slime from glands on either side of its mouth. The slime sprays outwards in a crisscrossing pattern, entangling the prey in a sticky net. Immobilized, the victim is then injected with saliva that liquefies its internal organs, which the velvet worm slurps up through a tubular mouthpart. It's both gross and beautifully effective. The evolutionary lineage of velvet worms dates back to the Cambrian period. Fossils of closely related creatures have been found in shale deposits, dating them to over 500 million years ago. This makes them one of the few living representatives of ancient evolutionary lineages, essentially a living fossil. And these worms are also peculiar in their reproductive strategy. Some species lay eggs, while others are viviparous, meaning they give birth to live young that develop inside the mother, nourished via a placenta-like structure, a trait exceedingly rare outside mammals. But despite their fearsome hunting method, velvet worms are delicate and slow. Many species are endangered, and some are so localized that they've only been found in a single cave or forest patch. This worm is evolution at its most creative. It offers no defense beyond its slime, it doesn't run, leap, or sting, but it survives, as it has for 500 million years in the dark corners of a changing world. The weirdest ideas in evolution aren't just successful, they're ancient masterpieces that never needed revision. Number 5. The plant that never dies, Welwitschia. In the deserts of Namibia and Angola, a plant sprawls across the gravel like a discarded pile of green rags. It looks dead, shredded, and hopelessly tangled. But this is Welwitschia mirabilis, one of evolution's most bizarre botanical inventions. It's a plant so strange that early European botanists thought it might be an alien. It grows just 2 leaves, ever, for its entire life, and that life may last over 1,000 years. Welwitschia is a gymnosperm, a distant cousin of conifers, but it shares very little with the pines or cycads that fall into the same category. Instead, it sends up a short, squat stem from which sprout just 2 broad, leathery leaves. These leaves never stop growing. They gradually fray and split over time into long ribbons that spread out over the desert floor. Some individuals have leaf spans of over 13 feet wide, all from just 2 leaves. No other plant in the world does anything like this. And the plant survives in an area with virtually no rainfall. It pulls moisture from coastal fog, which rolls inland from the Atlantic and condenses on its leaves. Welwitschia is also dioecious. That means individuals are either male or female. Male plants produce cones filled with pollen, while female plants produce ovule-bearing cones. Both are visited by insects, especially flies and bugs, that are attracted to nectar secreted from tissues within the cones. The plant appears to use both wind and insect pollination depending on the region. That's another example of its unique evolutionary flexibility. This plant is often described as a living fossil, but that's not quite accurate. It's not unchanged, it's evolved in its own strange way, diverging from other plants about 100 million years ago. Its unique appearance isn't a failure to evolve, it's a direct response to an extreme. Today, some of the largest specimens are believed to be over 1,500 years old, making them among the oldest living individual plants on Earth. They don't die of old age, they die from external stress, like disease or damage. If left undisturbed, they seem capable of near indefinite life. Evolution didn't make Welwitschia beautiful in the traditional sense. It made it stubborn, alien, and nearly immortal. In a place where life shouldn't exist, this 2-leafed wonder not only survives, it thrives, and it does so by rewriting the rules of what a plant can be. Number 4. Nature's greatest mimic that masters sounds like a living recorder, the lyrebird. In the eucalyptus forest of Australia, a song echoes through the trees, a perfect imitation of a kookaburra's laugh, followed by the rattle of a chainsaw, then the click of a camera shutter, and finally the unmistakable sound of a car alarm. But there's no construction site, no photographer, and no vehicle. The sound's coming from one source, the lyrebird, perhaps the most talented vocal mimic in the animal kingdom. Lyrebirds mimic the songs of other birds with staggering precision. The pitch, rhythm, and inflection are nearly indistinguishable from the originals. They can then layer these calls into long, complex melodies that they perform in display arenas during mating season. Each male creates a set list of sorts, refining and rehearsing it like a musician. The better and more diverse the repertoire, the more likely a female is to choose them. But their mimicry doesn't stop at nature. Lyrebirds raised near human activity have been recorded imitating chainsaws, camera shutters, car alarms, mobile ringtones, dog barking, human voices, and even the beep of reversing trucks. The behavior is not learned by accident. They are active audio collectors, listening, memorizing, and reproducing sounds over time. Some males have been documented mimicking over 20 different bird species, each with its own subtle phrasing and variations. From an anatomical perspective, the lyrebird's vocal organ, the syrinx, is among the most complex of any bird. It allows them to modulate pitch and tone with incredible control. In MRI studies, lyrebirds have shown brain regions associated with auditory memory and motor learning that are more developed than in other songbirds. And they're notoriously difficult to spot in the wild due to their shy nature and cryptic coloration. But when they sing, they make the forest come alive with a soundscape that no other creature can match. In a world where most birds rely on genetic song templates and basic calls, the lyrebird says, "Hey, watch this. I can do everyone better than they can do themselves." It's an evolutionary outlier that wins mates not with muscle or color, but with performance art that rivals anything on stage or screen. Number 3. A fox on stilts, the maned wolf. In the grasslands of South America, a strange silhouette stalks in the dusk, a reddish coat, long black legs, a bushy tail, and ears like satellite dishes. At first glance, it looks like a red fox, stretched vertically, or perhaps maybe a deer wearing a dog costume. But it's neither. This is the maned wolf, one of the most distinct, evolutionarily isolated canids on Earth. Despite its name, it's not a wolf, it's not a fox, it's not a coyote or a jackal. It's something entirely its own, a species that branched away from other wild dogs over 6 million years ago and has been following its own evolutionary path ever since. Standing over 3 feet tall at the shoulder, the maned wolf is the tallest wild canid in the world, a trait that seems bizarre until you see it moving through the tall grasses of the Cerrado. It's an omnivore, and a highly unusual one. While most large canids are predominantly carnivorous, the maned wolf diets consist of more than 50% plant matter. Its favorite food is the lobera, a wolf apple, a tomato-like fruit that grows in its habitat. Researchers also believe its digestive system is adapted to this hybrid diet in a way that sets it apart from other canids. In fact, some suggest that without the wolf apple, the maned wolf might not even be viable in the wild. One of their most unusual traits is its smell. Its urine has a strong, musky odor that closely resembles cannabis, leading to several urban legends and false alarms at zoos. The scent is believed to serve as a territorial marking function, warning rivals to stay clear. Now, genetically, the maned wolf is a true anomaly. It sits alone on its branch of the canid tree, its chromosomes don't line up easily with those of foxes, wolves, or jackals, and its closest relative is believed to be the bush dog, an animal that looks and behaves nothing like it. And in terms of locomotion, those long legs aren't just for spying over the grass. They help it run and pivot with surprising agility. While it isn't as fast as a greyhound or as strong as a wolf, its gait is fluid and silent. Observers often remark that it appears to glide through the landscape, barely disturbing the brush. And culturally, the maned wolf holds a special place in South American folklore. It's often seen as a ghostly or spiritual figure, a creature of the twilight. Its presence in indigenous stories and rural myth adds a layer of mystery to its already strange biology. The maned wolf didn't need refining by evolution. It found a path through an open niche and followed it, becoming something entirely its own. In a world that often rewards conformity, the maned wolf is evolution's long-legged, fruit-eating, cannabis-scented rebel. Number 2. The sea cucumber. Along the seafloor, among coral, rubble, and sandy beds, you'll find what looks like a soft, featureless slug. It moves slowly, if at all, has no visible eyes, ears, or mouth. But make no mistake, the sea cucumber is one of the strangest animals in the ocean, and perhaps one of the strangest anywhere. Sea cucumbers absorb oxygen through a pair of branched internal structures called respiratory trees, located inside their body. These trees are connected to the cloaca, a multi-purpose opening at the rear of the animal that serves as the exit point for waste, the opening for reproduction, and yes, the entrance for water used in respiration. The sea cucumber literally breathes through its anus, drawing in water through rhythmic contractions of its cloacal muscles. Specialized cells extract oxygen from this water and expel the rest. But breathing through your butt is only the beginning. When threatened, sea cucumbers have another evolutionary trick up their sleeve: evisceration. If a predator approaches, many sea cucumber species will expel their own internal organs through their anus in a sticky, tangled mess of viscera. These organs may be toxic or simply distracting, buying the animal time to escape. It is essentially biological self-sabotage used as a defense. Now, remarkably, the sea cucumber doesn't die from this act. Within weeks, it can regenerate its lost intestines, respiratory trees, and even its gonads, rebuilding itself from near ruin. Yet, for all the strangeness, sea cucumbers play a critical ecological role in marine ecosystems. As detrivores, they consume decaying organic matter, essentially functioning as the vacuum cleaners of the sea floor. They do this by extending a ring of tentacle-like feeding arms from around their mouth, at the opposite end of the anus, to gather detritus, plankton, and decaying material. These arms are sticky, ciliated, and sometimes branched, allowing the sea cucumber to sweep up food and stuff into its mouth like a conveyor belt. In every habitat that they inhabit, sea cucumbers act as living proof that evolution isn't always about speed, strength, or intelligence. Sometimes it's about being weird enough to just survive, to eat what no one else will, to regenerate from nothing, to confuse predators by disemboweling yourself, and to breathe through your rear end with absolute confidence. It's gross, it's resilient, it's functionally indispensable, and it's profoundly strange. It reminds us that the boundary between what seems absurd and what works is often thinner than we think. Number 1. The male anglerfish. Deep in the abyssal plains of the ocean, thousands of meters below the surface, lives a creature so strange, so alien, that its existence challenges our very understanding of what evolution is capable of. This is the deep-sea anglerfish, a nightmarish-looking predator that uses glowing lures to draw in prey. But that monstrous appearance is only the beginning. Among the dozens of species in this suborder, evolution has produced one of the most extreme and bizarre mating systems in the entire animal kingdom. Males that fuse permanently with the female, becoming little more than a living sperm delivery appendage. To appreciate how this strategy evolved, you have to first understand the deep sea. It's an environment of vast emptiness, sparse food, and isolation. Finding a mate here is a monumental challenge. Most deep-sea animals are rare, scattered, and live at low densities. Traditional courtship behaviors, which rely on proximity or visibility, simply don't work down there. The anglerfish's solution? A strategy that prioritizes permanence over proximity. Male anglerfish are born tiny, fragile, and mostly featureless compared to their terrifyingly female counterparts. While a female can grow to lengths of 20 to 30 centimeters, males are often less than 3 centimeters long. When a male finally finds a female, what happens next is almost unfathomable. He bites onto her body, typically around the belly or flank, and releases an enzyme that dissolves the tissues between them. Their skins fuse, their blood vessels merge, and the male becomes permanently attached. Over time, his body begins to atrophy. His eyes degenerate, his internal organs shrink, his digestive system disappears. Eventually, the only thing that remains functional are his testes, which are receiving hormonal signals from the female to release sperm when needed. Some female anglerfish will fuse with multiple males, as many as 6 or more, each one grafted onto her body like a wart. From the male's perspective, he achieves genetic success by giving up everything else. From the female's point of view, she gains guaranteed reproductive access in a world where other males might never appear again. Meanwhile, the female goes on living as an independent, ferocious predator, her head dominated by a bioluminescent lure which houses symbiotic bacteria capable of producing light. This lure dangles from a modified dorsal spine, and it's used to attract prey in the otherwise lightless world of the deep sea. When an unlucky animal draws close, the anglerfish will snap her tooth-lined jaws shut, and her stomach can distend massively, allowing her to swallow prey twice her own size. The first confirmed observation of a sexually mature pair of deep-sea anglerfish in the wild didn't happen until 2016, when researchers using a submersible captured footage of a female anglerfish with a fused male on her belly. The male, nearly invisible against her massive form, twitched in response to her movements. Before that moment, most of what was known about their mating system came from dead specimens hauled up from the deep, often damaged by pressure changes and trawl nets. There's no courtship here, there's no social bond, there's no post-coital behavior. Mating is assimilation. It's grotesque, it's brilliant, it's exactly what evolution demands in such an environment. It melts them down and grafts them together permanently.